Okay, Joe Rogan, KRESSER, and James Lightning Wilkes go at it yesterday, debating the KRESSER's debunk of the game changers. And so I'm going to provide some of my commentary from that. But first, I want to just share one quick thing with you guys that I thought was quite humorous. So I got an email, and I get a lot of these, but this behind me says, "Hello, my name is Jackie, and I work with We Do Keto!" Exclamation points. I'm excited about it. I've acquired your email from Instagram, and I'm writing to offer you a free sample. We are a keto food brand looking to provide delicious tasting food that keeps you fit or helps you bring you back to health. Launching soon with our first product, Keto Crackers. It is a cracker that does not spike your insulin, with a macros of 62.5% fat, 25% protein, and 12.5% net carbs, and an absolute total of 1 gram net carbs per serving. Made with almond flour and flax flour, rosemary, garlic, onion, poppy seeds, sesame seeds, and salt. As a part of the launch, we've prepared a sample package with this product. If you are interested in sampling our keto crackers, feel free to please respond with shipping information. Thanks for reading and have a wonderful day. And so my response was, do you have steak? I'm not interested in your crappy processed food, guys. I don't care if it's keto. I don't care what it is. You know, this is the problem. We're eating all this processed garbage. Keto processed food is processed food and garbage, and you don't need it. Just eat a damn steak. Okay, if you want to send me something, send me a damn steak. And a lot of people do, and I appreciate that. And I'm happy to promote steak and meat, and I think that's what people need to be eating. All right, back on to the debate. So this had to have been an extremely frustrating experience for, I would imagine, KRESSER. I don't know about Joe. Joe put on his Instagram, James Lightning Wilkes knocked it out of the park. He did such a great job that I'm considering removing the initial KRESSER debunk. And I think, having watched this debate or a significant portion of the debate, Joe is kidding. My assumption is because James Lightning Wilkes did not knock it out of the park. Full disclosure, I haven't seen it all yet because it's 3 hours and 42 minutes. I watched almost 2 hours of it, and I mean, it was frustrating to watch, and I'm sure Chris was about to, I just saw the frustration in his mind because you're talking to a guy who's like a wall that doesn't really understand. James Wilkes doesn't understand evidence, and I'm going to get to that, okay? So they start out with the gladiator thing, and he's saying, well, we dug up the main gladiator grave, and there's maybe a few others, and so therefore, because we found this one gladiator grave and we did strontium analysis, that they were plant-based, and he kind of waffles about what's plant-based. It's like, well, if you eat most of your calories from plant-based, and Chris, of course, is I'm an omnivore, and I eat a lot of plants, and so on and so forth, and Joe's like, I believe in balanced diets too, and I don't really care what people believe in. There's what happens and what doesn't happen, So there is this perception that he's trying to make that the gladiators, and while he doesn't say this, but maybe the perception is all gladiators were plant-based, and that may be true. But remember, all gladiators were slaves for the most part. There were a few people that in free society entered gladiatorship, but most of these guys were slaves. They trained, they exercised, they lifted weights. They were younger, and so this grave is full of a bunch of young skeletons of guys that lifted weight, did the equivalent of lifting weights, and so their bone density is a little thicker. And when you run strontium analysis on it, isotope analysis, and strontium is one of our chemicals, or one of our elements, as you guys may or may not remember from high school chemistry. But when you do strontium isotope analysis or relative analysis due to other isotopes like barium and so on and so forth, you can get an idea of what people might be eating, and they can do that on bone samples, tooth samples, so on and so forth. And so in this particular case, we see that these gladiators that were slaves ate a plant-based diet, and their bones were thicker. Now, is it due to eating, some meat and a lot of barley and grain and whatever, or is it due to the fact they were young and exercising? So let's go back and look at strontium, because it's an interesting, it's a very interesting concept, and I looked into this previous to this, and there's some interesting stuff looking at strontium levels. And so there is a article, and it's based on a study that came out in 2012 looking at tooth chemistry confirms early Homo, and they're talking about Homo erectus, not guys that like to dress up as, anyway. Anyway, early Homo erectus loved meat. 2 million years ago, hominids evolved more specialized diets, with early Homo preferring meat and Paranthropus choosing plants. And so this is based on strontium levels. If we look further into this article, it says using a laser, the team removed tiny amounts of dental enamel to measure strontium, barium, and calcium isotopes. Isotopes of an element have different numbers of neutrons. The ratio of these isotopes tend to change as you go up the food chain. Lower barium to calcium or strontium to calcium ratios, for example, are typical of carnivores. John Hawkes has a good explanation of how anthropologists use such ratios to examine diet in his blog, which I don't have. But so, looking at these isotope ratios, a clear pattern emerged. Meat was a large component of Homo's diet, and we're talking at this time probably Homo erectus or Homo ergaster or Homo habilis. Whereas plants were a big part of P. robustus diet, which would be Paranthropus robustus. This was a species of early pre-hominid or hominid that went extinct because they tried to do a plant-based diet. Australopithecus afarensis, which is Lucy, ate both types of food. The researchers speculated that this species probably ate a lot of woody plants, fruits or leaves, not grasses, during seasons, and meat during other times of the year, although they can't say which foods were eaten during which seasons. Taken together, these results suggest that early hominids were generalists. So these are the Africanus, Australopithecines. Then, 2 million years ago, they began to specialize more, with Homo, the Homo line, going to meat, Paranthropus going to plants, and then going extinct subsequently. The addition of meat to Homo's diets may have allowed our ancestors to evolve a big brain, which requires a lot of energy to support. So if we're going to look at strontium levels, let's look back behind the gladiators, let's go back almost 2 million years and see that early humans, and Homo means human, right? It doesn't have to be Homo sapien. Early humans ate a meat-based diet, guys. And there's other strontium levels out there looking at it and say they ate pretty much the level that you could call them carnivores. They ate a fairly carnivorous diet, and I think that study came out of South Africa. I don't have that to link right now, but we can look that up maybe at another time. Okay, so then James starts appealing to authority. Well, I'm not an expert, and neither are you, Chris, but I know the experts. Walter Willett and Richard Wrangham, the chair of anthropology at Harvard. Richard Wrangham's view is the vast minority. It's not the consensus statement, and Chris tries to point that out, and James keeps blabbing about, expert, you're not an expert. Well, let's talk about experts in evidence if we want to appeal to authority and talk about experts, because I just talked to one yesterday on my podcast. His name is Professor Gordon Guyatt. In 1991, Gordon Guyatt invented the term evidence-based medicine. He is the guy that invented this stuff. He is the world's leading expert on evaluating evidence. And what did he help publish in October of 2019, just a little over a month ago? What did he publish? The guy who spent his whole career developing systems to grade evidence, the guy who spent his entire career looking at evidence and evaluating evidence, and I had a long discussion with him yesterday on the podcast, that meat is not harmful. There is no significant, no strong level of evidence that shows you that meat is harmful. It is basically all weak epidemiology, and it does not conclude that meat is harmful. I don't care who your experts you think are, the evidence is weak. We do not have strong evidence one way or the other. And so if we're going to appeal to authority, then we can do that. If we want to appeal to authority on carnivore diets, then you can look at me. I am probably one of the leading experts in the world on carnivore diets. I've studied more people that have been doing this. I've been doing it. I've been looking at the research and all the evidence around that. So appeal to authority. I'm the expert on carnivore diet, guys, or at least one of the few that are out there. All right, so then they blab on about dairy, and this was very frustrating because they spent what I thought was an inordinate amount of time trying to figure out, and James is making this silly argument that, well, a small percentage of the literature shows that there is an increased risk for cancer when we look at dairy, but Chris and Joe are saying, but the majority of the evidence doesn't show that. And so he's trying to make the argument that based on weak epidemiologic studies, that dairy is somehow leading to cancer because a few studies show it. And that's not how it works. I mean, he tried to say that is how it works. It's not how it works. You can talk to Professor Gordon Guyatt. James, if you need an education on how to evaluate evidence. Weak evidence, regardless of which direction it shows, is weak evidence. You cannot make causality assumptions based on some weak study. And no, there are not randomized controlled trials conducted over a long period of time that show cancer results in human. Eating dairy, eating meat, eating whatever. Those studies do not exist. Therefore, the data is weak. Professor Guyett and I had a great conversation, and I said this is the analogy is we're looking at the evidence. It's like looking at a plane you're about to board, and the plane has a broken wing, and the plane has landing gear that doesn't work, and oh, by the way, the pilot is drunk. Get on board, guys, and that's the best we can do because that's all we can afford, right? And the problem, he said, is that's a very good analogy, but the problem is the people that are proponents will say that drunk pilot, broken plane is good evidence. It's not good evidence. It'll never be good evidence. Until you do the proper studies, the evidence will never be good. Okay? So let's understand that when you're trying to spout out about experts and the data we do not have good data on almost any of this stuff. Sorry to say, when you're looking at nutrition and evaluating who's going to live the longest, what diseases they may get in 20 or 30 years, we do not have good evidence anyway to say what's better. So this is almost just an exercise in futility and a waste of time. So finally, the B12 thing, and this is another thing that was just, it seemed like belabored this nonsense from my perspective there. This is a, so James is, so this is just silliness. So in the movie, he says, early man may have been getting B12 from eating dirt or dirty water and dirty vegetables, and cows are supplemented with B12, and the only reason you're getting B12 from animals is because the cows are supplemented. First of all, not all cows get B12. Yes, he provides he shows, well, there's a product that they supplement animals with. That's not standard practice in every cow. Every cow does not get B12. I can tell you that because the reason I know that because I've talked to ranchers. They say I don't give my cows B12, right? So it's not common practice. The cows have B12 in their muscle meat regardless if they're supplemented or not. Early humans got their B12 from meat. They didn't eat it from drinking dirty water or eating dirty vegetables. There's no evidence whatsoever to support that early humans relied on dirty vegetables or dirty water to get their B12 from. They got it from eating big animals. That's clear. The reason why we have some omnivores right now that have low levels of B12, serum B12 deficiencies, is because humans in general don't eat enough friggin' meat. That's the problem. The average American eats 2.4 ounces of red meat. That's an omnivore diet. It's not very much meat. Even indigenous tribes will get 30 to 70% of their calories, modern indigenous tribes, from animal source food. That's far more than we get in the United States. When I look at the carnivore population, remember, I'm one of the leading experts in carnivore populations. B12 levels are fine. It's because Americans are not eating enough meat that they're B12 deficient. And certainly vegans and vegetarians are more deficient because they don't eat meat. Here's a study looking at adolescent boys in rural India. So here's a headline. Healthy adolescent boys in rural India face high prevalence of vitamin B12 deficiency study. This is from 2018. It's not 15 years ago. This is current stuff. This is what we're seeing. Maybe they're not eating enough dirty vegetables or drinking enough dirty water there in India. I don't know. Perhaps that is the issue. And anyway, this is the conclusion of the authors of that paper, and I'll link the paper. In conclusion, they wrote, to reduce the prevalence of vitamin B12 deficiencies among adolescents, the increased consumption of animal food products must be encouraged. Thus, the high prevalence of vegetarianism in India can become a potential problem in this case. They are not suggesting, you need to include more dirty vegetables in your diet. They're not concluding that you need to take B12 shots. They're not concluding that you need to drink dirty water. They're concluding you need to eat more animal products. 2018 study, recent study. So, this is not, I'm going to take a supplement or eat dirty water or eat dirty vegetables. So, they promised to get on to why red meat is bad. I haven't watched that far. I'm almost 2 hours into it. Maybe I'll watch the rest today if I get a chance. This is extremely frustrating. I assume Joe was joking about James knocking out the part. Maybe, I'll watch the rest of it today if I get a chance, and I'll comment further. But anyway, this is just a very frustrating watch, guys. If you want to watch it, you'll be very frustrated like I was. Chris clearly understands evaluating evidence better than James does. James is appealing to authority. He's using low quality evidence to make his points. And that is just not how we need to have a discussion about the quality, the overall quality of the evidence looking at nutrition. In my book, I argue it's not very good in general. There are many, many people that understand this, that are experts in evaluating evidence. I'm not an expert in evaluating evidence, but when we appeal to authority, those experts say the evidence is just lacking to make any sound conclusions on dietary patterns in general. It could be a carnivore diet's best, it could be a vegetarian diet's best, it could be a vegan diet's best, it could be a Mediterranean diet's best. We don't know. There are people that I believe in a balanced diet. I believe in omnivory. That's fine, you can believe in whatever you want. I believe in results. And the results I'm seeing on people on carnivore diet are very good. And we're going to continue to push that, guys. So anyway, you guys have a great day. I'm going to go do a little, debate / conversation more likely with a guy named Mike Dolce here in a little bit. I guess that'll be on his channel. 9 a.m. I've got our daily meeting at the meetrx.com platform. Come join me. Let's have a discussion, guys. All right. Have a good day, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.